Good morning. I appreciate having the opportunity to get out. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I always enjoy getting out and getting around the state. Sometimes, no offense to any members of the General Assembly, but sometimes it's better than being in Columbia sometimes. But I just want to, again, thank you for the invitation to be here. You know, I was in Charleston yesterday morning doing a welcome at 8 o'clock to a Homeland Security conference down there. And one of the things that we talked about was that's so important in our profession is partnerships. And I want to say that the community of Florence and Florence County is very fortunate to have a chief of police and a sheriff that has the relationships they have. Because I can tell you that is not always the case. I see it from a statewide basis, and again, thankfully those relationships in most jurisdictions are very good. But having the close relationship that you have here between Chief Heidler and Sheriff Joy, I still have a hard time saying Sheriff Joy. But knowing him like I know him, just to say Joy, you know, Sheriff Joy. But anyway, having the close relationship that they have, I can tell you, is a huge plus for the community of Florence and Florence County, and you're very fortunate in that. I want to talk about some of the same things, some of the same topics. I'm going to expand on them a little bit because I'm talking about from a statewide perspective. But I really, 4 topics that I'll try to quickly get to. One is I want to talk about our profession. As you heard Chief Heidler talking about, our profession has been under tremendous amount of scrutiny, especially, I guess, since May of 2020, the George Floyd incident. As he said, we continue to have these terrible, tragic incidents that we see that continues to impact us. I served, I guess, December 10th was my 45th year in this profession. I love this profession. I still think it's a very honorable profession, and I get angry when I see what happens, just like the most recent incident in Memphis. And I say that I hear people talking about that's not in the profession. They say, well, law enforcement needs to do more training. I would tell you it's not a training issue because nobody trained those officers to do what they did. There's nobody that trains that. It is a character issue. It is an issue that those officers should not have been in the profession to begin with. That's the problem. And we cannot, because of our vacancy rate that we have in law enforcement, we cannot afford to lower our standards. We have to keep our standards high. We have to maybe even improve on our standards from where they are. But I just want to give you some numbers to put this in context of what our profession is facing. In November of 22, the Sheriff's Association did a survey. They had done a survey the year before. They did another survey of vacancies in South Carolina law enforcement. There's about 290 law enforcement agencies in South Carolina. South Carolina is still a very rural state. 70% of those agencies are less than 25-person departments. And from one year to the next year, we went from 118 agencies that were 10-person or less to 156 agencies that are 10-person or less, again, because of vacancies. But when this survey was done, there was only about 114 agencies, less than 40% of the agencies responded to this survey. And the survey showed that we had 4,114 vacancies in our profession. 4,114. You can imagine if every agency had responded to the survey, we think that number would have been well over 5,000 vacancies. So from our standpoint, from SLED's standpoint, what we see is we see a continued increase in our requests for service. We have for the first time said, I've been at SLED since 1979, except for those 3 years I was director of the Department of Public Safety. And I can never remember in my time at SLED where we had agents actually working shifts in small communities. In May of last year, we started working shifts, had agents working shifts in Allendale, city of Allendale. We've had agents working shifts in Estill. We got agents working shifts in Chester right now. And it's not just SLED, it is the Highway Patrol, DNR, and Triple P. We're all trying to fill that gap of where these vacancies are occurring so that no community is left without law enforcement service. One of the things that I pride ourselves on at SLED, we are an assisting agency. That's what we were created for when we were created. We were created about, there's some debate, 1947 and 1935. But the bottom line, when we were created to do one thing, and that's provide manpower and technical expertise to local agencies. Obviously, we were a very rural state then, and I would tell you that we're still a very rural state today. Again, when you look at 156 law enforcement agencies that are less than 10-person department, that tells you that we're still rural. We continue to get more of those requests for service. In 2020, before 2020, 52% of law enforcement officers that entered the profession left after 5 years. 52%. They didn't leave to go to another agency. They left the profession completely. During 2020, 33% left after 1 year. So we got officers going to the academy, going through 12 weeks of training, going back to their agencies, and in 2020, 33% left after 1 year. Now, I'm happy to tell you that last year, we only saw about 8% leave after 1 year, which that's a big improvement from where we were. When we look at the number of folks that left in 2020 that left the profession completely, 907 officers left the profession completely. And in 2021, 1,297 left. That was not a good number because we saw more leave in 2021 than we did in 2020. You ask why this happens. I would tell you that we've got one of my majors right now is in process of writing his thesis for his doctorate. And that's what he's studying. That's what he's doing his thesis on. And one of the number one problems is pay. Officers do not feel they're being paid appropriately. And I want to thank members of the General Assembly. I can tell you for state law enforcement, and again, I've been in state law enforcement since '79. We got a pay raise last year that was transformative. It's the largest pay raise ever, at least since I've been in law enforcement, since '79, and I was very proud of that. And I thank the General Assembly for doing that. And they're talking about doing another pay raise again this year for state law enforcement. And again, it will help us retain those very dedicated professionals that we have doing this job that we spend a lot of money on training, and we look forward to that happening as well this year. So I want to thank them for that. We've talked about violent crime a little bit. I want to hit on that. Never before, I've been chief of SLED since 2011. I've had 2 press conferences. I'm not one that you may see me in the media, but it's not because I'm holding press conferences, because that's not what I do. But in June of 2021, I had my second press conference that I've had as chief of SLED. And that was because we saw the highest number of murders in our state that's ever been recorded. 561 in 2020. And I'm sad to say that in 2021, we saw that number go up again. 566 murders. The murder rate has increased in South Carolina 6 years in a row. We did see a small drop in overall violent crime in 2021. We saw about a 5% drop in overall violent crime. But again, the incidence of murder still increased about 1%. When we look at this and we ask ourselves, what is happening, the one thing that we continue to see is almost everyone we deal with has a gun. And I know that the sheriff and chief can tell you that. When I started my career in 1979 working undercover narcotics at SLED, I was buying pounds of pot and ounces of cocaine off the street, and nobody ever had a gun. We just didn't see them. I can tell you for the first 3.5 years that I worked undercover, I arrested 2 people that had a gun. One of them was unloaded and in a box. We just didn't see it. But now everybody we deal with has a gun. And one of the reasons that we go back to the vacancies in law enforcement. We talk about why we have that. One is the dangerous nature of our job today. Again, I go back to pay, poor supervision. That's one of the things that officers list. And the other thing is they list that the perception that the public doesn't support us. And that is a huge problem that we have. And we know, as Chief Heidler said, it's up to us to try and win back that trust and respect from those that we serve. And so we are definitely in that mode all the time. Property crimes, I will tell you, is on a 10-year decrease. People ask me all the time, say, Chief, why do you think? And the only thing I can tell you is, you know, we got more alarms on about every car you buy has got an alarm on it now. We got cheaper security systems for our homes. People can afford more cameras for their homes, but with these security systems. And again, we've seen overall property crime decrease 34.2% over the last 10 years, which is a positive thing. Weapons law violations, I just talked about weapons. Weapons law violation, we saw a 4.2% increase last year. And unfortunately, we've seen an 80.8% increase in weapons law violation over the last 10 years. 80%. It tells us that we've got more guns on the street and that we have to do what we can to get these individuals that are committing violent crimes with guns off the streets, and that's a big effort that is underway. Drug law violations continue to increase, about 3% last year. But again, our biggest concern, if you think about murders, increased in South Carolina 52.2% in the last 10 years. Those are concerning numbers. And again, I don't see, we're not seeing a positive trend in that. We will see it. Next thing I want to talk about, they mentioned fentanyl. They mentioned drug overdoses. Again, in 2020, we saw over 107,000 drug overdoses in our country. I dare say that everybody in this room knows somebody or has had a relative that's been impacted by overdose death. I've lost a sister-in-law. Lost a sister-in-law and a nephew. As I tell you, I started out my career in law enforcement and narcotics in 1976. People wonder why I'm against medical marijuana. They shouldn't wonder. I've seen it. People don't just smoke pot. They end up going on to something else. If anybody in this country thinks our border is secure, I got some oceanfront property I want to sell them in Richland County. Our border is not secure. And as long as our border stays open, we're going to continue to see young people die. We're losing a whole generation of young people because of overdose deaths. And they're not going down. In 2021, we saw an increase by 430 here in South Carolina, from 1,734 to 2,168. Again, I would guarantee you most everybody in this room knows somebody who's had a family member that's been a victim of overdose death. We have got to do something about drugs in our community. And we can't say this is not a war we can win, because we can. I want to thank the Senate. Last week, the Senate passed a bill for drug-induced fentanyl deaths. That will help us. The House passed a bill last week for trafficking in fentanyl and had mandatory minimum sentences on it. And I want to thank the House for that. I hope that both bodies get together and both of those bills end up passing this year. That will help us. We have to do something about drugs in our communities. By comparison, just think about this. 2,168 deaths in 2021, or 2021. In 2012, there was only 563 overdose deaths in South Carolina. 67% of those 2,168 deaths were fentanyl or some other synthetic opioid. We've got to do something about drugs in our state. And again, I thank the General Assembly for doing what they're doing on fentanyl, both the fentanyl-induced death and the trafficking in fentanyl bill. We need it, and I thank them for working hard on trying to get those passed. The last thing I just want to mention very quickly is one of the projects that we've had this year. In January of 2022, we all know that we continue to see these mass shootings. About 2 weeks ago, I guess now, 10 days ago, we saw that as of January, the end of January, or January, February, we'd seen 67 mass shootings in the U.S. already this year. We all know about what's happened in our schools, from Columbine in 1999 to, Sandy Hook, to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Florida, to Uvalde in 2022. Molly Spearman, former superintendent of education, came to me in January of 2022, and she started talking to me, and we started talking about creating a center for school safety. And we told her what we had been doing about school safety with Homeland Security funds since 2005. We had been doing active shooter training for schools. We've been training teachers, administrators. We've been going to manufacturers, houses of worship, teaching what we can do to try and protect our communities, try to protect our vulnerable, citizens, our children who can't protect themselves. And so we came up with the idea of creating this center. Lexington District 1 Superintendent at the time, Greg Little, had a vacant school, Gilbert Elementary School, and they had graciously given us the opportunity to have access to that school building about the last 5 years to provide training, to use that building to provide real life training in a school atmosphere where we had lunchrooms and cafeterias, and we had gymnasiums, we had long hallways, stairwells, all the things that we need to be able to provide law enforcement the training they need. And they had graciously given us access to that school for us to go in and shoot it up with ammunitions and do some real live training in it. So we went and talked to him, talked to the new superintendent who is there now, Dr. Postlewaite, and I went and talked to City Council, went and talked to the legislative delegation, House and Senate in Lexington County. The Gilbert Middle School is a perfect place. It's centrally located. And then I went to the General Assembly and asked for money in our budget this year to create a Center for School Safety and Targeted Violence. And we got our House budget numbers yesterday. That money is in our budget. And we're excited about that opportunity to create that center. Because right now we're already doing training. We're doing active shooter training, but we train bus drivers. We're in the process of writing a lesson plan for special needs students. We're trying to do state-of-the-art training for our schools to try and do everything we can to keep our schools safe. I've been in contact with the director of the Criminal Justice Academy where they do SRO training. We want to do SRO training at this center, again, because we have a real live school building that we can actually do it in. So we're excited about that. All the training we do is free of charge. All you got to do is show up. It will be made available to every law enforcement agency in the state. Schools will be made available to every superintendent. And one of the things that the superintendent has talked to me about, and a couple of times I spoke to him in the last year, is they said, Chief, we need to know what to do with the troubled student. We need to know what to do with that student that hadn't crossed the line yet to being criminal, but yet we know something's going on, and what can we do? And part of this program is we're going to hire additional behavioral scientists. We have a behavioral science unit now that when we have threats on schools, our behavioral science get involved and try and determine, once we identify that individual, what the risk is, what we can do threat assessments. And one of the additional things is we'll hire additional behavioral science that will be committed to responding to these calls when we have that student that we believe may be a threat, work with the crisis teams in our schools to try and keep our schools safe. But again, it's just some of the things that we do. I will tell you, SLED is a supporting agency. We don't come into any community and try to take over anybody's case. We're there to try to assist and support them in any way we can. We continue to live up to our tradition, which again is an assisting agency. And thank you again for having me here this morning. And again, if there's something we can do at SLED, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm probably the easiest man in the state, I think, to find. And I do this all the time. I did it yesterday with 106 people in that class, and I'll give you my cell number. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I have people that's told me before, said, Chief, you know, you're absolutely nuts to go to a Rotary Club meeting and give out your cell number. But I give it out everywhere I go, and my cell number is 803-360-9805, 803-360-9805. If anybody needs something to call me, please let me know. I always try to tell the chiefs and sheriffs, prosecutors, and coroners if something's going wrong that they think SLED's done something we shouldn't do, or we haven't done something we should do, or they just don't like or they think we've done something to them, to pick the phone up and call me. As TJ said, if I don't know about it, there's nothing I can do about it. But again, thank y'all. Thank you for supporting your community, as I know the chamber does. And again, God bless you, and thank you very much.